let's get started by first answering the question, what is 5S? Well, formally defined, 5S is a method of creating a clean and orderly workplace that exposes waste and makes abnormalities immediately visible. As an aside, this particular image has an interesting story behind it. The man on his hands and knees polishing the floor just happens to be the president of this manufacturing company. You see, at this company, nearly all employees, including senior management, come to work 30 minutes early every day in order to clean and tidy things up. Oh, and one other small fact, these 30 minutes are unpaid and completely voluntary. But as it turns out, 5S is so ingrained into this company's culture that nearly all employees partake in this early morning routine. Now, with this said, while cleaning is an extremely important part of 5S, it must be said that 5S is far more than a housekeeping initiative like so many confuse it to be. You see, as we learned earlier, one of the main purposes of 5S is to be able to identify abnormalities. In other words, if the place we work in is an unorganized mess, chances are we'll rarely be able to spot when something isn't right. But if we have things neat, clean, and tidy, we're far more likely to identify when something isn't right. Okay, well, now that we have a better understanding of what 5S is, let's learn about its origins. Now, when someone refers to 5S, they're generally referring to 5 Japanese words that start with S. But it would seem, contrary to what many people assume, the origins of 5S may not be Japanese after all. In fact, Henry Ford's Can Do program, which stands for cleaning up, arranging, neatness, discipline, and ongoing improvement, seems to be the obvious precursor to what we call 5S today. And that actually seems to be very logical since the Japanese studied Ford's methods shortly after the war ended. But to be sure, the 5S we're focused on in this course, and in most lean manufacturing situations, is based on 5 Japanese words. They are seri, which is commonly translated as sort, seitone, which means to straighten, seiso, which means to sweep or shine, seiketsu, which actually means to sanitize but is most commonly referred to as standardized today, and finally, shitsuke, which means self-discipline or sustain. Now, later in the module, we'll dive a bit deeper into each of these 5 steps. But before then, let's spend some time talking about why 5S is so important no matter if you work in a machine shop, office, or hospital. Now, the first reason 5S is so important is its impact on safety. Now, there can be no debating the fact that a cluttered and chaotic work area is often an unsafe work area. Well, 5S at its core should always focus on creating and maintaining an organized and safe workplace. The second reason 5S is so important is that it helps us identify and eliminate waste or muda. Now, most people are amazed at how much more productive they are once their work area is decluttered, cleaned, and organized. Again, these people I'm referring to could be a machine shop operator or an accountant or a nurse who works 12 long hours each night and just wants things to be in their place when they need them. Now, the third reason 5S is so beneficial is the fact that it's low cost and very high impact. You don't need to spend a lot of money to improve 5S. In fact, you could very well make some money if you sell items you no longer need or use. Next, done correctly, 5S gets everyone in the company involved. It doesn't matter if you wear a suit and tie or a hard hat. 5S knows no boundary. So it's the perfect opportunity to bring folks that wouldn't normally interact with one another together. To be sure, this type of collaboration makes companies much stronger. Another reason 5S is so important is the simple fact that adherence to standards is a key to Kaizen. And since 5S is a standard in and of itself, it goes without saying, if you can't do 5S, you can't do lean. In fact, 5S is a key building block for most of the lean tools and concepts used today, such as one-piece flow, total productive maintenance, and single-minute exchange of dies. As they say, without 5S, you can indeed forget the rest. Okay, well, now that we have a better understanding of why 5S is so important, let's discuss each step of the process. But before then, let me just say that in coming modules of this course, we're going to explain exactly how to go about executing each of these steps in your workplace. Now, the first step is sort. Now, this step basically challenges us to get rid of the things we don't need or use. Now, this can be a very hard step for some people since they'd like to keep everything they've ever come in contact with. But this type of hoarding attitude only leads to clutter and disorganization. So if we don't need it, we need to get rid of it. Now, to help facilitate the sort process, lean practitioners often use red tags similar to the ones shown in this picture. Well, rest assured, we'll be covering everything you need to know about red tagging in a coming module since, while it's not a complicated concept, there are many traps that you need to know about. Okay, well, the second step is straighten. So once we've cleared out all the items we don't need, we need to straighten up what's left. Now, the mantra of a place for everything and everything in its place fits this step perfectly. Now, here are some examples of nicely straightened drawers and toolboxes. If some tools or items were missing, it would be obvious to the owner, giving them an opportunity to find or replace the items before he or she actually needed them. Okay, well, the third step of 5S is sweep. Now, this step is also referred to as shine. Now, this is probably the most misunderstood step of all, since most assume this step simply means to grab a broom and clean up. And while good old-fashioned sweeping is definitely important, this step is far more than just cleaning. You see, the main principle behind this step is to clean to inspect. In other words, if you find yourself sweeping up the same mess day after day, you should do your very best to eliminate the source of the dirt. Now, here's an example of sweeping in action. As it turns out, in this example, the sources of the dirt and grime were attacked as part of a total productive maintenance Kaizen event, further demonstrating how 5S and other lean principles are closely related. Okay, well, the fourth step of the 5S process is standardize. Now, this step is focused on creating standards so abnormalities are easily recognized. Things like checklists and audits are very helpful. Also, some companies even engage in corporate 5S competitions where the monthly winner gets to hold the local 5S trophy for the month, while the last place team gets the opportunity to partake in a brown bag lunch with the general manager of the facility as they explain their plan to improve. Now, one of my favorite examples of standardization is from our friends over at FastCap, who use magnets to ensure the items on their kitchen area table go back to the same place. Now, let's check in with Paul Akers to see what we mean.
So we like to say leave everything better than you found it, but we've actually improved that saying. We don't call it that anymore occasionally. We call it the next guy. All you want to be thinking about in life is the next guy, not yourself, the next person that comes here. How are you setting them up to succeed or fail? So I want to leave it clean. All I have to do is grab my Windex, spray a little Windex back, put it back. Notice it's all magnetic. It goes back magnetically. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool how that works.
That was not there at your last facility.
I know, this is all new. Okay, so now I wipe my area off, but I wipe a little bit more in respect and leaving it better than we found it. I stand up, I wipe off the handles here in case I got some grease on there, push the chair back in, and the place is left perfect. So if I told you that I wanted you to leave it this way, would it be easy for you to do it?
Yep.
Why? Because you don't have to walk all the way over there to get the Windex. It's right in front of you.
Right.
Right? So we make processes easy. If you do that, then people are going to be able to comply. So now check out the salt and pepper. This is very cool.
Oh my gosh.
Okay? So now the cool thing here is, we do this for fun. You don't need to do this. But you can't put the salt in the pepper area because it's reverse polarization.
Okay, man. Airproof.
Look at that. Everything is dialed in. Just like that, we have Kanban levels. When the salt and pepper gets down to this level, you replace it. Even this is magnetized. Look at this. It goes right in place. Even this is magnetized. So instead of having this basket sitting like there, like most people would have, right? You can't make a mistake, and it's actually fun to do that because it snaps back into place. Isn't that totally cool? This is what work should be like.
Now, as Paul said, you don't have to use magnets and go to this level of standardization if that doesn't make sense for your business. But we do encourage you to think about what would happen if all aspects of your business were as standardized as FastCap's kitchen area. So, if you happen to be watching this video with a group, I'd really encourage you to pause the video in order to discuss FastCap's kitchen. Do you think this level of standardization would work in your company? Well, feel free to pause now and discuss. We'll wait on you. Okay, well, the last step of the 5S process is self-discipline. Now, the key to this step is to apply positive tension. In other words, if your 5S improvements are to sustain, it must be made clear that this is how we intend to operate as a company. Now, it's similar to a rope. If a rope is pulled tightly and someone comes along and tugs on it, we get an immediate response. However, if the rope is loose and we pull on it, we may not realize it as quickly. So this really gets back to being able to identify abnormalities. With positive tension, we can identify issues immediately. With loose or no tension, we can't tell there's an issue until the damage is already done.